are not going to.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of New Day Resurrection Liberation. I got to do some quick adjustments. I got to resend the link out and send out the correct links. It was an error in the linkage, so I'm sending it out currently, family. And thank you for joining us for another day, another episode of New Day Resurrection and Liberation. All right, I had those links sent out shortly in the next minute or two. I got to resend out the emails, email blast that I just sent out earlier. All right, but we are currently live, and I thank you once again for joining us on this day where we are honoring Ancestor Steve Cook.
Okay, and not only are we honoring Ancestor Steve Coakley, whose born day was June the 17th. He was born in the year of 1952. And of course, every month we focus on some of our ancestors that we want to highlight because we don't want our people to forget. And so we, particularly the ones that are kind of new to certain things, not that they forget, but some of them never even heard of some of the people that we have talked about and have studied. So we make certain that we continue, every month to highlight certain ancestors. Now, this week has been very interesting when it comes to ancestral transitions. I don't know if everyone knows, but today, and I'm not sure if she actually passed yesterday, but the announcement was made today. Mother Khadija Farrakhan made transition. And so we know that that's going to really, can you imagine being married for 72 years? That's just incredible.
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible. So, I can only imagine, how that's just going to just be, somewhat devastating, I'm sure. But at any rate, for those who do not know, Mother Khadijah, of course, did speak at the Million Woman March in 1997, along with her daughter, Sister Donna Donna Farrakhan. And also there was another sister from the nation that spoke, and I believe it was Minister Ava. Yes, Minister Ava Muhammad. So, again, this week we got hit with quite a few. The other person that happened today was Tony Brown from Tony Brown's Journal. Now, family, for those of you who remember that program, that was the program of all programs to watch on TV, because during that time period, there was very little kinds of, information, Black stuff that was real. Right. And Tony Brown's Journal certainly was. And, he brought all kinds of wonderful conversation, information, and he just had such a brilliancy about him as a journalist and as a Black man. And so it was kind of rare during that time period to see particularly on television, that type of journalism. And believe me, he was excellent. For those who have never seen him, just go Google it and go on YouTube or one of the other platforms. You will definitely find Tony Brown's Journal. So he was 92 also. So again, our ancestors, or some of our what we call freedom fighters, and some of the true ones are now moving forward to the next realm, and we say they're making way for the ones that must now come in and take things to the next level, because they certainly gave us enough ammunition, enough to work with, and certainly enough inspiration, and so forth. So we are so blessed to have had these great black men and black women. So again, we're going to pay tribute to Baba Steve Coakley again, and salute, and also to Mother Khadijah Farrakhan and Tony Brown, and one more. Tomorrow will be the born day for Kwame Ture. So there are four for tonight that we're kind of highlighting their work, their contributions. We're supposed to have with us Baba Bambozi, Shango. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, since he doesn't have the correct link. So hopefully we'll be able to get that to him shortly. But when we talk about Baba Kwame Ture, certainly Baba Bambozi is able to give us that kind of insight into the life and legacy of Kwame Ture. And for those who do not know, his government name or slave name, it was, of course, Stokely Carmichael. And so we're going to talk about all four of them, but we're going to also hopefully get a report from Mississippi. Well, he might have left Mississippi at this point, but this week there was a couple of things going on in Mississippi, needless to say. And for those that do not know, and I'm sure you do, there was really a tragic situation that happened in Mississippi with the unaliving of a 1-year-old child, with the alleged shoplifting of diapers. The mother is said to have allegedly shoplifted some diapers, and from the reports that we've seen thus far, that's not true. It wasn't true. So there was, quite a bit of things going on, needless to say, in Mississippi this week. And so one of the brothers that has been on our program numerous times, Brother Akbar, and some of his crew went down to Mississippi. They were boots on the ground. So we're hoping to have him to give us a report, an update on what's going on, of course, there in Mississippi. So as soon as we have our links ready to go, we will try to tap into, again, Baba Bambozi Shango from AAPR-PGC. And he is also, of course, co-chair of one of the Cuban coalition groups, and also Venezuela. And so we hope also to get an update from him on both Cuba and Venezuela, given the fact that, of course, there was 2 major earthquakes this week in Venezuela. So we really want to kind of, hear what kind of updates we might be able to get directly from some sources, as opposed to the regular commercial news. So with that said, we're going to move on. And how are you this evening, Baba Moses? I don't know if he can hear me.
I'm doing just fine. I can hear you. Thank you. I'm doing just great. Only person I'm not familiar with the people you're talking about is this Coakley person. So you can school me on that.
Oh, wow. You never heard of Steve Coakley. Well, Steve Coakley, have you ever heard of the Boule?
I've heard of it, but only through you all since I've been listening to you all.
Okay. Well, that's really, at least for myself and quite a few others, that's how we learned about Baba Steve Coakley. He was the one that began to provide us with in-depth research about the Boule, which is over 100 years in existence, actually, and started here in Philadelphia. It is the black version of, to some degree, of what's known as Skull and Bones. And most of us knew absolutely nothing about this particular group, which is considered to be a secret society. And so Baba Steve Coakley was, in fact, the one who literally did a lot of research about the Boule and began to do lectures about it, and also share, some of the things that he was really able to learn. He actually went to at least one of the meetings. I know I heard a report from him that one of the meetings that he went to, and he really kind of gave us a lot of insight and capability to understand, overstand how some things were really happening in our communities when it comes to gatekeepers and other people who are literally sent into our communities. And of course, we know about it from, organizations such as the Black Panther Party, where COINTELPRO and other kinds of things, went into some of our groups and organizations to dismantle, to create confusion and even worse. Well, on another level of things, there is this thing called the Boule. And that is a bit more, it's in a different realm, in that these are more of your politicians and others that are in other kinds of arenas that tend to be working for the enemy. And this was the kind of information that Baba Steve Coakley was able to not only talk to us about and teach us about, but to bring us the documentation and to really break it down, the symbols, the different kinds of things that they actually did. And he showed us who some of the members were, actual records, actual documentation. So that is who Steve Coakley was. And of course, he was also he worked in the Harold Washington administration in Chicago. So he was very much involved in the political arena in Chicago. But he was very, very serious about representing Black folks in such a way that it wasn't a cowardly kind of thing. So he was very close, of course, to our brother, Minister Khalid Abdul Muhammad. And, and he spoke out against certain people, such as Jesse Jackson. He literally gave information about the involvement of Jesse Jackson in certain types of things that we won't go into tonight, but certainly, was not in the best interests of Black folks. And he brought forward those kinds of documents and, again, was able to share and show why we have to be very clear and very thoughtful about some of the modes of operations that are in our communities, because people are not always who we think they are on the surface, and that oftentimes they're being paid, or sometimes, shall I say, they're being paid to dismantle or other kinds of things, create all kinds of, sabotage and so forth in our movements. And these are people that look like us. So that's who Baba Steve Coakley was. And there's a lot of information online about him, a lot of videos that you can also see about him. Okay, how are we looking, Brother Lumumba? Whoa. Okay. All right. So I
did get the updated email sent out. All right, and so the new links is sent out with the updated email.
Okay, so I'm gonna get ready to. Yeah, I'm gonna get ready to send that out. In the meantime, there were a couple of, were you able to get the couple of clips that I sent for Baba Steve Coakley?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so maybe we can play those in the meantime while I'm sending this new link out.
Okay. All right, got it. All right, family. So, yep, a little bit of technical difficulties this evening. Thanks for rocking with us. And oh, we got some people in the Zoom room too. Let me bring those people. Oh, we got Baba Shank. Oh, he already here. Okay. All right, we got Baba Bombozi Shango with us on deck. All right, so he is in the building. Okay. All right. Give thanks. Give thanks. All right. It was the correct StreamYard link, but I put it on the wrong channel though. So I did send up the corrected channel link. So I sent that out. So that should be good to go now. So my apologies for the technical difficulties, and welcome to the program, Baba Shango. All right, give thanks.
Thank you, my brother.
Okay, all right,
Sister,
thank you.
Sister
Yes,
Empress,
yes, thank
greetings.
you, Barbara. All right. So, as I mentioned, family, earlier, there are four people that we are going to salute tonight. And needless to say, tomorrow will be the, shall we say, born day, some say birthday, of probably one of the greatest freedom fighters in our time. It's so wonderful to be able to see the growth and development of someone. And when you look at that, when it comes to Stokely Carmichael, of course, now known as Kwame Ture, you see this student, of this just incredible young person. But then you can literally see how over the years he grows and develops, and just, it's just, see, this is what we're talking about, that struggle is an ongoing kind of reality, and you have to continue to grow and develop. And so when we see the work, the accomplishment, when we see the tenacity of Kwame Ture, of Baba Kwame Ture, certainly it exemplifies what it is that we've been talking about, that we want to now see some more of our students today grow and develop into being a bit more, not only proactive, but focused and clear, and less caught up in this system. They go to school, they get their education. That's what folks used to say years ago, and they get indoctrinated, to the degree where they don't often have any real connection to our communities, and definitely not to our movements, our struggle for liberation and for justice. And so very soon we're going to start working closer with some of our students when we put together the National Black Student Movement Society. And one of the criterias of those students and young adults is going to be they have to know about the 1950s, the 1960s, and part of the 1970s. They have to know about what students did, the freedom rides, the sitting at the lunch counters. Whether you agree with those things or not is not the point, but what is the point is that it was students, young adults, who picked up the kind of mantle that really was from our ancestors from the decades prior to them. And in doing so, they made some waves, believe. So with that said, we're going to bring in Baba Bamosi Shango, of course, of the APRPGC. Also, one of our, of course, Cuba and Venezuela correspondents, and hopefully he'll have time to share with us any updates in regards to Cuba and certainly Venezuela, given the fact that there was a recent unfortunate from what I was told, two earthquakes that were, pretty severe. But before we go into that again, we're going to talk a little about Kwame Ture. Baba, I call him, and others call him Baba Kwame Ture or Brother Kwame Ture. But because there's a respect level that we always want to make sure we keep intact, I say Baba. So with that said, Baba Bambosi, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for the invite, and I'm very happy that you're discussing Kwame Ture. He needs to be discussed more at this time because many of the things that he has said during his life is now coming into reality, especially about Zionism and about capitalism, imperialism, neocolonialism. So I think that when we look at Kwame, he follows in the tradition of a number of Trinidadian revolutionaries. He was born in Trinidad, but he
Mm-hmm.
came to the United States at an early age. His mother brought him to New York, and from there he started high school and then went, of course, to Howard University. And it is at Howard University that he first got involved in the civil rights movement, although he was influenced by a number of progressive Africans and Europeans in the New York area before he came to Howard. So
Mm-hmm.
he didn't come to Howard entirely wet behind the ear. Uh, but at Howard, as you know, there was a Howard University nonviolent group. And then
Mm-hmm.
there was a conference at Shaw University in 1960, in April of 1960, that was really nourished by a sister we don't hear too much about, but Mrs. Now, now my age is beginning to show, names are slipping, but she nourished these students and they formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee at
Ella Baker. Ella
Ella
Baker.
Baker. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. They formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee on Shaw University campus.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, Ella Baker was working for SCLC with Dr. King.
Mm-hmm.
And SCLC told her that she should ensure that the SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, become a part of SCLC. But her position was that these young people need to be independent and need to
Mm-hmm.
discover for themselves what direction they must take to fulfill their mission
Yes.
and to free their people. So he came up through SNCC. He always was sorry that he did not attend the founding conference, but he
Mm-hmm.
joined SNCC right after that. And he was, of course, a freedom rider. They did the SNCC Summer Project, and mostly well known is the SNCC taking up of the Meredith March, where between Memphis, Tennessee, and Jackson, Mississippi, in 1966, they hollered the famous two words that still vibrates around the world today: Black Power.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So Kwame came out of this milieu. And of course, this was a student milieu. It
Mm-hmm.
was the students on university campuses and high school students and even grade school students. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting here tonight in Oklahoma City, and the sit-in movements in Oklahoma City was the first. It
Mm-hmm.
was in 1958, not 1964 when Greensboro went up, but 1958,
Mm-hmm.
young grade school students sat in at the Woolworths uh, here. And it's not a well known historical fact, but I ask you if you can, your audience to please check it out.
Mm-hmm.
1958, the first real sit-in.
Yep.
Anyway, as we move forward, we see that Kwame Ture began looking at independent black political parties from the early 1966. They founded the Peace and Freedom, not Peace and Freedom, the Lowndes County Freedom Democratic Party in Lowndes County, Alabama, and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Of course, you know it, Miss Fannie Lou Hamer. And
Yes.
through these organizations, he began to see that really working with the established Democrat and Republican Party, and they were both the same at that time and now, that
Right.
working with them was not the way that we would bring our people to liberation. So by 1967, Huey and a bunch of folks from the East Coast, the West Coast, who put together one of the sets of Black Panther Party. We call them Black Panther pubs
Mm-hmm.
because there were at least three or four variation of them. The first one was the Lowndes County Freedom Democratic Party.
That's right.
That
Mm-hmm.
was the first one. Then Ram folks in New York attempted to put together a Black Panther Party with Max Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in Chicago, you had Bob Brown, who recruited Fred Hampton and the folks in Chicago, some of them who got killed. And then there was, of course, the party groups out on the West Coast in California. And there
Mm-hmm.
was an internal struggle in that for who would become the real party. And at some point, uh, Huey and Eldridge emerge and
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Seals as the party. So
Right.
we're looking at least four sets of Panther Cubs. And
Wow.
at some point they merge. But in the meantime, Kwame Ture had the opportunity to go to the OLAS conference, the Organization of Africa, Asia, and Latin American Countries, that was held in Cuba in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And from that conference, he decided that he was going to go as a SNCC person, not as the chairman, because I think at that point, Rap was the chairman of SNCC. So he went, he was traveling from Cuba through Germany to get to Vietnam. And after the plane took off, Fidel sent out a message asking, because it was Cuban Airlines, asking the plane to turn around and come back because
Mm-hmm.
the Cuban intelligence had gotten information that the CIA was going to try to ambush him in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So they put
Mm.
him on a Russian flight directly to Moscow, and from Moscow into Vietnam, where of course he met Ho Chi Minh, he met Trang Dong, the mastermind between the Vietnamese of the Vietnamese military strategy. And then he left from there and went to China. And it was in Peking that he met Mrs. Du Bois, W.B. Du Bois' wife. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
she told him he's got to come to Ghana. He's got to meet Osachifo, Kwame
Mm.
Nkrumah.
Yes.
That is how he got to Nkrumah. And while in Ghana, again, Mrs. Du Bois said, and there's somebody else I want you to meet. This is Miriam Makeba, who became his wife. So
Wow.
you see the connections. Kwame spent almost the first year in Ghana with Du Bois, with Kwame Nkrumah.
Mm-hmm.
And Nkrumah, as you know, was overthrown, and he was living at that point in Guinea
Mm-hmm.
because the president of Guinea, Hamed Sekou Touré, after the coup d'etat, the CIA coup that overthrew Nkrumah, Sekou Touré asked him to come to Guinea and to be co-president of Guinea, which is something that has never been heard of. And it is while they were in Guinea that they formed the Guinea Mali Ghana Union. I'm sorry, before he got to Guinea, they formed that. And that union would have included the Congo if they had not assassinated Patrice Lumumba. And
Mm-hmm.
this is of course documented. I ask you to go look it up. Don't take my
Mm-hmm.
word for it.
Mm-hmm.
When Nkrumah was overthrown, he was writing a little book called Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare for the African Revolution. And the CIA and British intelligence seized that book, and he rewrote it while in Guinea. And I'm sure he made some changes, but it is supposedly practically the same book.
Mm-hmm.
In this book, he calls for the formation of an all African military high command to coordinate African military forces across the continent. And he also called for the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And
Mm-hmm.
he himself said this party should be built in Africa first.
Mm-hmm.
Kwame Ture convinced him that we should also try building it inside the United States. So when Kwame came back to the US, he started talking about Pan Africanism.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1972, at Howard University, there was a press conference that announced the formation of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. It's from here that the party grew. You know, also in 1972, you had the first African Liberation Day. And the African Liberation Day was organized by a committee called the African Liberation Day Organizing Committee. Now, this committee was made up of some of everybody. On the roster in New York at the day, they had over 72 speakers and entertainment. Kwame Ture was not able to come. He was in Guinea, but he did send a message to the first African Liberation Day. But after that ALD, it was diversified and held in different areas of the country. Like there was one in Durham, one in Atlanta, one in DC, one in San Francisco, and so on. And so that occurred all the way up to 1976. While that was occurring, the leadership of the African Liberation Day Support Committee uh, began moving very rapidly to the left. And while we were also moving to the left, they were socialists, but we were also socialists. We were Nkrumahs, they were Marxist Leninists and Maoists.
Mm-hmm.
So by 1976, the AAPRP decided that we need to take African Liberation Day back to Africa. The first African Liberation Day organized by the AAPRP was 1976. It's been organized every year since then. It has become an institution. It's organized all over the world. At this point, we can't control it. We just hope that people will be able to see the progress and the contributions that ALD has made because, today, well, I think over the last 3 or 4 years, African Liberation Day been even organized by Africa, which is something that I'm sure is making a number of people turn over in their grave. But for those who don't know, AFRICOM is the U.S. African Military Command, which at first they were not able to get any country in Africa to host it. Today, it's in almost every country in Africa. And what it is the U.S. military force that can move to either overthrow progressive governments or to ensure that they never come to power in each African country today. And we have to destroy it. We have to move it. We have to eliminate it. But again, Kwame Ture spoke, and I was just looking earlier today at some of the places that he spoke. It's amazing. He spoke at the International African Nuclear Conference in Japan with the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1976 or 77. He spoke at, university in Canada that the black students had taken over and burned down the computer lab and all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
he was everywhere. He was everywhere. He was in Puerto Rico in 1968, speaking with the Puerto Rican Socialist Party, the revolutionaries in Puerto Rico. So for us today, it's a day that we remember his contributions and we try to do some of the things that he was able to do. And I think I'll stop there because there might be some questions.
Yes, absolutely. All right, family. Well, listen. So again, it's important that particularly those who are serious about doing the work that is necessary for today. It's tradition. It's also intelligent to know or have a better understanding, comprehension of some of the things that have happened prior to now. Those who have done those things, those who literally kind of paved the way for certain things. So we feel that there has to be a responsibility. And unfortunately, over the past, I would say 20 years, if not more, somehow the ball got dropped. I'm just going to say that. And there's certain things I've seen up close and personal where I know that the ball got dropped. And I know why some of it got dropped. And what I'm referring to is, as Baba Babosi just mentioned or just said, or just really, gave us, our people were, they were no joke. I'm serious. The things that they were doing, and again, not just locally, but nationally and internationally. And yes, there's going to be struggles internally, needless to say. If you study our history, you're going to see that all across the board, in many times in different decades and different centuries. So that's kind of almost like human nature. But the point is, those that are really about it, stay focused. And there may be different ways to do certain things, but the bottom line is the bottom line, and that is justice and liberation for our people. And that doesn't mean that we don't have allies and that we don't support others, but we definitely are about African liberation, Black liberation. All right. So before we go any further, let's open up the floor. If there's any questions, comments, thoughts, let's bring it. It's time to grow and move forward, family. And again, don't be afraid to ask any questions, because that's what it's about. We're taught that we're learning from the cradle to the grave. So, we have to make certain that we continue to do that, to grow. So again, let's open up the floor.
All right, Ashe. This is Brother Lumumba, and thank you so much, Baba Shango, for providing that background and backdrop information into kind of the making of our ancestors, of that ignition of revolution, and the kind of tutelage that was shared, and the kind of process that went on in order to uh, bring these extraordinary people to fruition in their evolved state of consciousness. And so I just thought it was important. This is more of a comment rather than a question, but I thought it was important the way that you highlighted, uh, you know, our brother Kwame Ture in um, traveling to Africa, traveling to the motherland, and being able to build relationships and communities and networks with the African heads of state at that time. And I think it really brings a stark contrast to some of the quote unquote diaspora wars that goes on today, and really shows the importance of the connectivity with Africa, with the motherland, with the leaders, of nations, to be able to build those coalitions, and how that was the most influential and the most impactful in our movements, and how that aspect was one of the major threats, which is why they felt as though it was so important to eliminate them. So it perplexes me, and I guess I will end it with a question. It perplexes me today when I see a lot of the bickering, arguing, and back and forth, and we not African this, and tether talk and all this other kind of craziness. But when you look historically, these were the most impactful aspects of the liberation movement. As you said, in bringing the All African People's Party back to the United States, building it up here, them building that chapter in Africa, and the connections, the interconnectivities between those things. So how do you believe, Baba, that we can push, make sure that that information is being shared more widely, and kind of dispel some of the false narratives and misinformation that is going on with connecting with Africans? This whole thing of tether talk, we the FBA versus continental Africans, and just the importance of and the incredible impact of those collaborations. How can we push forward and push past that, and bring some of these highlights to even the misunderstandings of Pan Africanism? As you were stating with that development as well. How can we bridge some of these gaps and battle back against some of the divisiveness that, from my perspective, is just more of the same plays that has that the enemy has used from the past? How do you think we can push past this, Bawa?
Hey, thank you, Brother Lumumba. This is the essential question that we must come to answer. We believe that our major problem today is we lack concrete organization. Now,
Mm.
that does not mean that we don't have any. We have all kind of organizations. We got the Oogum Boogum Club, but we got you name it. However, we need organizations that has a specific political consciousness, and they can only get that through political education. That
Hmm.
consciousness does not fall from the sky. So that is an extremely important question, brother. Thank you very much.
I say, thank you for
Uh,
that.
Let me just add that when the AAPRP started out in 1972, we thought that we would concentrate on organizing students,
Hmm.
but many of the members were not students at that time. They came from the movement, the earlier movement from out of SNCC, from out of CORE, from out of the Black Panther Party, from movements that already existed into the AAPRP. But we also knew that students were not workers. We eventually have to move to organizing workers. But
Hmm.
students add the ability and the time to take complex concepts to the community and to break
Hmm.
it down. They had this time because they were not involved in the labor force, at least not in the early 60s and 70s as much as they are today. And even at that time, we didn't have students who didn't have lunch at a university. That is a recent phenomenon. And so we thought we should organize students to get the stormtroops necessary to go out and organize other sectors of our community. Uh, in doing this, we had what was called work study, where we studied at least once a week. We had book lists of books that we felt we need to understand, like our sister was saying earlier. She said we should have an understanding of our history. And, Nkrumah said that, Garvey said that,
Hmm.
Kwame Ture said that. But along with the study, we had to work. And part of that work was recruiting students. We used to go in the dorms in the evening and go door to door and knock on doors like missionaries and ask the students if they ever heard or ever thought about the fact that they're Africans, that they know what do they know what's going on the continent? Do they know what the US is doing to them and our people all over the world? And through these discussions, we were able to recruit by 1982. We had work study groups in over 37 states and at least several in the Caribbean and on the continent. And, you know, this is how we move to organize. And this is something that I was talking with Mukasa, and he says we need to do again. And I think he's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. All right.
So thank you for that question, Brother Lumumba. It hit the
Yeah,
spot.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And with that being said, thank you for that addition. So that was interesting because when you said the work study program, when students think of the work study program today, they think
Right.
about going to school
Work,
to study
right?
and working at some job. But you
Right.
just laid out a whole nother perspective of the work study
Exactly.
program. So I'm so glad that you brought that to the forefront, Bob. That was heavy. That was so important and impactful. And in addition to that, so thank you for that once again. In addition to that, I wanted to ask, how do you think that we can? And I think you did answer some of that as well with the recruitment of the students, and I'm sure Empress is going to get into that in a little bit after I relinquish the microphone. But how can we then again, be able to reconnect, some of these bonds with the continent, and to be able to rebuild some of the bridges that over the decades, there's continuous attacks or misinformation or acts of division that, when Africans come over here, because I understand some of the pushback with some of the folks here in the States, the FBAs, of sorts, because when a certain sector of Africans from continental Africans come over, they kind of look down upon quote unquote African Americans. They're not really inclusive or accepting, and there's even some teachings or from from parents and things of that nature that they shouldn't stay away from those blacks because they're lazy, they're shifty, so on and so forth. And then we're taught over here, oh well, they're trying to come over and take our reparations and so on and so forth. So how can we begin to build these bridges and make reconnect with our brothers and sisters from the continent, and make sure that we're combining our strengths, our efforts, and our activities for freedom and liberation for our people across the diaspora.
Well, you know that in the 1980s, the U.S. issued a national security memorandum to prevent the linking of the progressive and they say violent African Americans with the Africans from the continent. And again, this is something you can go and look up. It's online. I think the easiest place to find it, maybe the Final Call printed the whole memorandum at one point, but they understood better than us what the implications were for us to unite the African diaspora, the Africans that are spread throughout the world, with the Africans in the continent. And as you know, there's been a battle between Brazil, not a physical battle, between Brazil and Colombia for years over who actually has the most African in their population. And I think Brazil is probably still the winner of that battle, but Colombia is a close second. And Venezuela itself says they have over 28% of Venezuela is Africans.
Mm.
I didn't say that, they did. So, if you take that into consideration with the totality of all the Africans in the Caribbean islands, I would say that we would see the necessity for us to move to unite with the African diaspora because we are a minority. And again, for your direct question, I'm sorry. Uh, we have to fight against this backwards ideas. It was a struggle in the 1960s when we said first black power. Folks would kill you, literally, if you call them black.
Mm.
And we waged this relentless struggle to call them black, and then we said, well, we're doing this wrong. Why do it twice? You're African. So we waged a struggle to call folks African. And in the middle of all of that, we had Black is Beautiful. We had James Brown, who changed his tune. One week he was black and white, we might fight, but when the enemy come, we get together and run them out of sight. That was a hit. But the next week he had a hit called Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. So, this is all part of that struggle, and that struggle needs to go on today
Mm,
because we, for some reason, did not pass it down to our predecessor generations.
mm-hmm.
And so now we have to do the work again.
Yep. Yep. Wow. All right. All right. Thank you for that, Baba.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Let's check backstage. Any of our folks backstage that have a question or a comment?
All right, Sister Shayla just came on board, so I'm not sure how much of the conversation that you have heard. But if you would like to weigh in on the conversation, you are more than welcome to.
Peace, everybody. I missed the part of the conversation. I just heard that someone spoke about the battle of Brazil or Colombian having the most people with African ancestry, but I really didn't understand the link and how the conversation started. So
Okay, okay. One of the questions that I asked really quickly, just to recap, I was asking, based on this quote unquote diaspora wars, and just a point of reference, Baba Shango, Sister Shayla is in Germany now, hailing from South America. Is that correct?
correct, from Brazil, yes,
From
from Brazil.
Brazil. From Brazil. Okay.
Ah,
So Baba Shango was saying that. Um, there's a battle going back and forth between Brazil and Colombia in determining, who has the largest African population, which I thought was interesting. Because one of the questions I was asking is, how can we currently fight against or be able to battle back against some of the division that we're seeing with the quote unquote diaspora wars. And so uh, Baba Shango was just conveying that this is a battle that has been raging in the '60s and fighting to even have African Americans in the United States call themselves black, right? And a fight for them to
Hmm.
call themselves African, right? And then with James Brown coming in with "I'm black and I'm proud," so saying unfortunately that that teaching didn't get passed down correctly or didn't penetrate with the current present and recent generations, and so that fight, that battle, has to continue and has to be reinstituted and reinstated. So I just wanted to see if you had any perspectives on what what's your thoughts, what your perspective is. Coming from uh, Brazil and spending time in Germany and dealing with
Hmm.
those different dichotomies, how what's your perception on how we can begin to dispel some of this misinformation, disinformation? Because I was saying, when Africans are coming over here, a lot of them are taught, not to get with the shifty, lazy blacks from America, and then we're taught, not to get with continental Africans. They're gonna steal our reparations and all of this type of stuff. So, I'm just trying to get to a a connecting point to where we can rebuild our relationships, rebuild these bridges. And I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts or ideas on that.
Okay, so about the diaspora war. Of course, I think it's something that is very specific in the US because, of course, people are going to you. Yes, and you normally and generally saying not just the Black Americans or FBAs or white Americans, you are never going to the other countries as a mass migration, right? Because the position of the United States. So This is the first point. And when where there is a lack of resources, right? So people fighting for resources, we will have a problem. Yes, so it's something that happens in Germany, not among Africans, because the black population, African population is very small, but we have other immigrants and people, they are always against each other because of resource. And the ones who are not organized, normally the blacks, they will be on the bottom of the society. This is the fact,
Yeah.
right? Also in Europe is the same. There is a lot of misinformation, I think, from both sides, right? Some people, they talk just about stuff that they even don't know and they see on TV. I can speak about the perspective being from Brazil and being in Europe. So from Brazil, generally saying, people are very open about tourists, people who are foreigners and everything, right? So normally, so people, they even don't know about the diaspora or war or something like that. We don't have a huge immigration of Africans there. It's something that's new. But what I perceive, or the information that I get, when the Africans are also in Brazil, they also don't have any connection with the so-called Black Brazilians. They don't want, there are both sides. The Black Brazilians, they don't want to have nothing to do with them, and they don't want to have nothing to do with the Black Brazilians, because they think that this is the words that they use, slaves, right? Once we don't talk their talk in the way that how they want, they call all us this kind of name. uh, People, when they are, so perspective from Brazil and Europe, the intellectual ones, they tend to make comments about, Black Americans are very arrogant, they are self-centered, they think they know everything and everybody. And my question is always the same: do you know someone from there? Do you have a contact with people there? Are you involved in what's the name, in organizations there? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Because this is the experience that I have. I'm not saying that uh, I never met someone in the US, I'm talking Black people, that mistreated me. Of course, I'm not living there. I'm involved with organizations, so I'm aligned ideologically with the people that I'm involved with. So I do not have any problem, right? And this is the question that, and normally people, they just think, or they had one bad experience, or they also have a lack of self-esteem, because from the
Mm.
blacks around the world, although you have your struggle there, you have a high self-esteem because you fight back in a certain way. You are very confrontative, it's a fact. But I think, as I see as a positive characteristic, right? And people, they should be open, they should try and get involved with organizations. I never had a problem with no one, and people are always interested to know, okay, my reality is the case here, and to come to this conversation. But if you are, we think, oh, we have a kind of idea of people, and I'm not saying that if we deal with regular people, sometimes they say, come back to your account, even black, yes, so people will do that. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but this kind of thing we also experience under the dominant society everywhere where we are. Why we speak about Black people? You know what I mean? So this is my opinion. My experience is very positive. I always embrace. I try to understand. One thing that people usually say, oh, the blacks, I'm talking about the folks from the South America. The Black Americans, when I go there, they say, you are not black. You are not black. This is one
Mm.
thing. And once I start to get involved with you there, I understood that black is not about the color or something, it's about an ethnicity. Before you used FBA, I understood this an ethnicity, right? So being okay, you are not black because you are not Black America, you were not born here, or you are from another ethnicity, but it's something that we can clarify and speak about. So people, they are misinformed. They they are not open to get in touch with others to try to understand their reality. Yes. And for example, when I'm in the United States, I go to, it was for my first time. I go to the place where I know that Black people are. Yes, to get my Airbnb, of course, to support and to be with my. And I understood that although we speak different languages, we have a lot of stuff in common. A lot of stuff, even our situation, the countries where we are. So this is my opinion. Yes, so misinformation from both sides, and of course we have Black people that they want uh, to be with white people everywhere. It was a conversation that I had with a brother from the US yesterday. He was here, we met here, so as a coincidence, and he was speaking about his experience here in Germany when he tried to get be in community or to be with Black people. The first thing that he sees that okay, things start nice, but once a white person, white German, European comes, this Black person will pay attention that about the white person, right? Or will want to be closer. So we must be open and try to understand, and because this division, I think it's something that exists, it's deeper in our DNA, but the point is what I always say when people start with this conversation. My point is tribalism brought us to the place where we are right now because we are descendants of these people. Tribalism maintain us in this situation that we are. This is
Mm.
my regular statement. Tribalism. In the end of the day, this is modern tribalism. Thank you.
Thank you for that addition, Sister Sheila, in that perspective. Let me bring it over to Baba Shango for any additions or response.
Yeah, I think our sister's correct. Tribalism
Mm.
is not the same as being a part of a tribe, but
Mm.
instead it's tribal chauvinism, where you
Mm.
think that your tribe is always better in a number of different ways than other tribes who have the same history and the same social oppression and exploitation that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that one of the best fights against tribalism was waged by Sekou Touré in Guinea.
Mm.
And if you go to Guinea today, you can see the results of that fight because even after Sekou Touré died and the French helped to pull a coup d'etat against the PDG, the party of Sekou Touré, and were in control of that country all the way to, well, all the way till today, they still have to fight this effort to bring back tribalism in Guinea. So that's something that's very important. I think that in Germany, there was one effort on the part of the folks from Namibia to get reparations and repatriation out of Germany because of their role in Namibians in what was called Southwest Africa during colonialism. And the same kind of genocide that they waged against the so called Jews and the Gypsies in Europe, in Germany, they also waged against our brothers and sisters in Southwest Africa. And they've been struggling to get what they rightfully belong out of Germany ever since. And they're just making some little successes today. But Brazil has a wider, much wider influence because if you go to Brazil or if you go to Colombia today, it kind of remind me of where we were in this country in the 70s and 80s. Because now you see a lot of people, for example, in the west coast of Colombia, walking around with big medallions with Africa dressed in African clothes. Even the last vice president of Brazil, our sister, throughout her whole presidency, she wore African clothes every day purposely. And, you know, same kind of struggle is taking place in Argentina, where it's only a few of us left, but there was a large majority. As a matter of fact, I would tend to say that we were the ones who introduced Argentina to the tango, which is a famous dance that folks claim is a Latin American dance. But it's the Africans who brought that to Argentina.
That's right. Yes, indeed.
If you look at Brazil, Brazil is linked to all of South America, Central America, and the Caribbean through religion, which is one form or the other of Yoruba religion, of the Yoruba religion. In some places, it's called different things. In Haiti, it's called voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
In Jamaica, it's called obia. In Cuba, it's called Santeria. But
Mm-hmm.
it's in essence the same Yoruba religion. It exists in Brazil. And there's probably not too many countries that I could think of. It exists in Venezuela.
Mm.
There's not too many countries I could think of where there were Africans brought from the continent to work as slaves that this religion did not exist, which means that this religion today is usually considered a Nigerian religion, but it exists in at least 5 states in West Africa, including Benin.
That's right.
And so
Yep,
all of
absolutely.
this, yes, all of this diaspora is connected. If through nothing else, this religion, which has been laying dormant on the ground, but has been very active.
Mm-hmm.
The reason in Cuba they talk about Santeria is because they had to commingle it with the Catholic Church to
Right.
disguise their participation and practice of it.
Yes. I say.
So,
I say.
so we have the basis for unity. We have more in common than we have that's different, and we have to raise that up.
I say, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that retort and that addition, Baba Shango. All right.
And again, I think we ought to thank our sister because definitely we need to fight tribalism. And today,
Mhm.
I think tribalism is in essence the same as neocolonialism.
Yes,
All right.
indeed, indeed.
Uh, so, Baba Bamboji, I have a quick question since we kind of hit on some things throughout the diaspora and connecting it. I haven't spoken with you since March, where the 123 countries did in fact take that incredible stand and vote. Haven't talked to you since then. What are your thoughts about the gravest crime against humanity?
I think we have two genocidal maniacs that is united and is carrying out massacres across the world today. And unfortunately, the people in the US are either as dumb as Trump is, or they're afraid of him. And I think it's more the latter. Folks don't want to they don't want to get out there because he might pick on them. But he's already doing that. So they have nothing to lose but their chains, as somebody else once said. But in Cuba, there's now some supplies getting through. There's a number of people who are sending not just oil, but alternative sources of oil, alternative sources to oil. Uh, Cuba itself has a very small deposit of oil, but so small that they never really pumped it. But now they're doing that. China is sending just tons and tons of solar panels, and even before this, they were trying to solarize the schools and the hospitals. And I think they had accomplished probably 60 or 70% of that before the crisis, because students and health is of a priority in Cuba, unlike the United States. In the United States, they have done away with the education department. And, the folks who voted for Trump said they don't need people with all these big highfalutin words. That's the utterance of a dummy. For you to say you don't need education because it's better when you're dumb. If everybody's dumb, then we're all equal. It makes no sense. So Cuba, while has prioritized hospitals and schools, so they come first, no matter what happened. I know Chicago, DC was put in receivership. And that meant that the federal government was running DC, and they decided what to prioritize. And it wasn't the schools, it wasn't the libraries. As a matter of fact, one of the first things they closed down was the DC General Hospital. If you remember that, in the 1990s with the financial crisis in DC. So they prioritize making money. Cuba prioritizes their people, and they see their people as human capital. And so when they say the Cubans are oppressed and they're trying to get rid of the government and they want to get rid of the government, this is something that the U.S. have been hoping for. This is their dream, that the people of Cuba will want to get rid of their government. As a matter of fact, in the proposal for the blockade, what the government of the United States said is that we want to starve the Cuban people to the extent that they will rise up and overthrow their government. But today you have a citizenship in Cuba that grew up through the revolution. Not many of the old folks are there who were there before 1958 and 1954. And so all of these people have lived under the revolution, and not only that, they have lived under a U.S. blockade which is over 65 years old. So this blockade is not nothing new. That's why we always say Cuba is resilient. Look at today. Already Cuba has ships and medical personnel heading for Venezuela. What do the U.S. have? Troops. Troops heading for Venezuela. And I'm sure after this hurricane process, this earthquake process is cleaned up, that they will not rebuild, they will not help to rebuild, and the Venezuelans will have to fight again to get them out of their country one more time. So we will see. And in midst of all of this, they have kidnapped the president of Venezuela and the first vice president, Muriel Flores, and they have them in a jail in New York City. And they're going to try them for gun running. I mean, how do you go to somebody else's country and decide you're going to arrest somebody for gun running, for drugs? The CIA, the UN, everybody have always said the least amount of drugs coming to the United States is not coming from Venezuela. However, just recently, the CIA has changed that decision, that position. So, you know, it's the same old, same old. It's an attempt to take back the grounds that they have lost, in South and Central America. And, you know, while they were running in Iraq and everywhere else, they lost grounds. The progressive forces came to power almost everywhere. And they're fighting to get rid of them now. And they're going one by one. And unfortunately, you know, some of the countries in the Caribbean has leaders who are not the most non neocolonialists. And if you look at Trinidad, it's unfortunate that Trinidad has had this situation several times. Eric Williams, the first president of Trinidad, wrote a dynamic book called Capitalism and Slavery, in which he explained the connections between slavery and how capitalism has exploited not just Trinidad, but other islands in the Caribbean. And this book should be read by everybody. Unfortunately, when Eric Williams came to power, he banned this book in Trinidad. The book he wrote, he banned in Trinidad. And today, you have a president of Trinidad, a woman who has no morals, is not ashamed to say that she's selling herself for whatever she can get from the United States. She gave the United States permission not just to fly over, but to land for that invasion they did in Venezuela when they kidnapped the president. Of course, she's not the only one. You got the DR, which has always been on the wrong side of history. You got Jamaica, who, with the earthquake and everything in Jamaica, suddenly decides that Cuban doctors are not needed in Jamaica. Now, you know, that's not what the people in Jamaica are saying. They're saying that at least they could count on Cuban doctors coming into areas and servicing people who couldn't afford the regular doctors. And the Jamaicans who go to school, medical school, and become doctors are in New York and Miami because they wouldn't make any money in Jamaica. So the government was using Cuban doctors until the Secretary of State of the United States told them they need to get rid of them or the U.S. will not give them visas to come to the United States. Now, how do you weigh that? How do you prioritize your need to come to the United States to shop or to do whatever it is that you do versus the health of the majority of your people? So that's what's going on. The people in Venezuela suffered a devastating earthquake too. Many buildings have been fallen, especially in Caracas and in Alebo, a little area closer to the coast and closer to Trinidad. And in Alebo, the earthquake damaged the airport. So airplanes bringing supplies, etc., got to land 30 miles away from that earthquake area and 30 miles away from the airport and then load stuff on trucks and bring it to Caracas and Alebo. So they're having that problem. And luckily, there's a large Venezuelan diaspora in Colombia and other places in Brazil that is collecting for them. And the people in the US also wants to collect and send stuff to Venezuela. And the Venezuelans themselves are arguing over the question of funds. Who do you send it to so that it gets to Venezuela? Because you remember all the money that the Red Cross stole from Haiti. They don't want to
Yeah,
make that same mistake.
That's right.
yeah,
And so, you know, there is there's an organization that if you can, you should follow them. They got a mailing list that's e-group or they mail stuff out constantly, and it gives you a much better understanding of what's happening in Venezuela. It's called the Venezuela Solidarity Network. So if you can look them up also.
All right. All right. Excellent.
and Baba Babosi, just for a point of clarity for those that do not know, because we mentioned, of course, that you have been a member of the AAPR-PGC for decades, but would you just share briefly with the family when you talk about Cuba, when you talk about Venezuela? I know there are a couple of organizations, groups that you have been working with for a while. Could you share the names of those groups and organizations and the period of time that you've been working directly with both the Venezuelan and Cuban government as well as the peoples?
Sure. I was one of the 5 co-chairs of the National Network on Cuba. I resigned about 2 years ago because I felt that we needed younger people, but I still work with the organization, the National Network on Cuba. I'm just shifted away from the co-chairship. I was also one of the first directors of the Venezuela Solidarity Network in, I guess, 2006 to about 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had the opportunity to make several trips to both places and to work with a lot of the people there, especially the Africans.
Mm-hmm. Ashe. All right. And family, I made sure that you all were, knowing this, because the information that we bring to you, again, we always, look to do it from as close to the sources as we possibly can. We avoid, or rather avoid, commercial stuff. And so we take the time to make certain that we connect with people who actually are connecting with our people. So I wanted to make sure that you all knew that. I'm sure that you did, or at least suspected as such. But I wanted you to be even clearer. So thank you for that, Baba.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Brother Moonby, any questions or thoughts from Facebook or anyone behind the stage that might have a question or a comment backstage?
All right. Give thanks, give thanks. Everybody is at the front of the stage right now.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if anyone has a question or a comment, but they can um, open up their mic. So we do have a couple. Before I'm gonna open up the floor in a second. I just want to just shout out those who tapped in with us from our YouTube live. All right, so shout out to Sister J Renee, Sister Shirley Baker, El Pollinator, Baba Shabaka.
All
Uh,
right.
well as oh yes, and Shirley Baker taps in and says, "Thank you, sir." And that goes out to Baba Baba Shango. All right, so thank you all for tapping in with us on our YouTube live page. With that being said, let me come back over to the yard and see if anyone on stage has any questions or comments. Let me open up the floor. Questions or comments, family? All right. So we have Baba Moses, we have Chief Elder, Sister Shayla. Is there any questions or comments?
All right.
Okay. Does not look like it.
Let me just give a shout out to Brother Moses, who have always been on the progressive side of history.
All right. Wonderful. All right. So with that said, we're going to get ready to close out this segment, I guess, since there's no questions, additional questions or comments. But I do want to ask Baba Bambozi a question in regards to Baba Kwame Ture again. Um, it was for me just explicitly clear of his love for the people, our people. And I want to share with people, and then Baba, you please by all means, share, something that you feel we should know. I remember when I visited with Baba Kwame, and he was at that time, really in a lot of pain. Um, and I found it so very interesting that about a week or so later, after my visit with him in New York, I get a report that he's at a hospital. Now, initially I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he's at the hospital. But he was at the hospital in a wheelchair at a protest.
Yeah, nurses strike.
Hey!
That's right.
He was there with the workers who were on strike, protesting with them. So, family, I'm saying that to say that this is the type of spirit that was so, this is what you saw with so many of our people. And what has happened is just weird to me, and that puts it mildly. The kind of spirit that some of us were able to see and glean from and grow from, we're not seeing it today. And we better change that like ASAP. So with that said, Baba, is it a story or something that you could share with us in terms of Baba Kwame Ture?
Well, Kwame, the day he died, the Libyans had sent an airplane for him to bring him to Tripoli,
Mm-hmm.
where they were going to do some operations that were, for the most part, experimental, but the
Mm-hmm.
cancer spread too far. And
Yes.
he felt it was very important to go on this trip, even if he died on the airplane, because he said the essence of that trip would have been to break the blockade on Libya. And of course, you know, Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua is not the only countries that the U.S. has on blockade and have blockade. Libya
Mm-hmm.
was blockaded for several years. So Kwame wrote a statement of what he wanted written on his tombstone before he got on that plane or before he was to get on the plane. He unfortunately never got on the plane. He died
Mm-hmm.
before he was able to get on the plane. But his epitaph
Mm-hmm.
says, if we cannot alleviate Africa's suffering, then we should share in it equally. And
Wow.
I think folks should think about that for a minute because it's true. Don't say, well, I can't solve the problem of Africa, so I need three Mercedes in my garage. If Africa is walking and you got Mercedes, either you buy each one of them one or you walk two.
Mm-hmm.
If we cannot alleviate Africa's suffering, we must share in it equally. And sister, thank you so very much, Brother Lumumba, as always. It's a pleasure. And to your guests and your audience, I thank them and I'm honored to have the ability to address them.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours, Bob. The pleasure is all ours. Give thanks. Much appreciated.
All right. All right. Thank you again, Baba. All right, family. So listen, again, we had four of our great freedom fighter, our great ancestors that we wanted to hail up for tonight. And you just heard the first one. Of course, we were just talking about Baba Kwame Ture, also known as Stokely Carmichael. For those who feel encouraged or motivated to do so, there is an abundance amount of information that you can obtain, at your fingertips. I strongly suggest that you do. To learn more in depth about our people, those who really fought, those who really made a difference, it strengthens you. Believe me, it helps to strengthen the person. The more you know about our people, the genuine ones, it'll definitely lend to your growth and development. So again, I encourage you, by all means, to continue to do the research, continue to grow and develop. Moving right along, we're going to go to another ancestor, and Brother Lumumba, let us do briefly or quickly Baba Steve Coakley. We just have a couple of clips, family, that we want to share with you. A little bit of history about Steve Coakley, Baba Steve Coakley, Ancestor Steve Coakley. And again, the information that he brought forward was not stuff that most of us had ever heard of. And so it really made a difference, best believe, because it allowed us to think twice about certain things, and particularly when we're dealing with certain kinds of situations. When I deal with government or city officials or whatever that look like us, I think in a certain kind of way, other than just, they are one of us, or they look like us and they happen to be an elected official or whatever. I have another thought processing. And a part of that is as a result of Ancestor Steve Coakley. So, Brother Lumumba's going to play just a couple of clips. It's just a few minutes, but it gives you a little bit of history about Steve Coakley. And also, you're able to see for yourself his capability to address people who are in positions such as news folk. He was very good at responding to them, and they hated it. So, Brother Lumumba, are we ready for those clips? Yep.
Excuse me, if we resolve white supremacy, we will resolve the problems of unemployment, we will resolve the problems of bad housing, and they showed their relationship with these people by proving that
in this country do you respect?
Well, I people, and excuse me, if we resolve white supremacy, we will resolve the problems of unemployment, we will resolve the problems of bad housing. The Reagan administration probably represented the epitome of white supremacy by cutting into every domestic livable program that whites and blacks had, especially poor people, and they showed their relationship with these people by proving their insensitivity. Now,
well, Mr. Coakley, you've attacked Jesse Jackson, you attacked the late Mayor Harold Washington, you called them colorless. What black leaders, political leaders in this country do you respect?
Well, I think politics has a way of accommodation. I don't think we have true political leaders in the sense of that you're going to find purity in politics. Politics is about accommodation and compromise. When our black leaders go into politics, as was discussed recently in Harper's Magazine, blacks have to prove to whites that they will protect their interests first. That's why politics is not the type of game that we're going to continue to invest all our time in, because it's proven that it doesn't work. Politics will not whip white supremacy.
All right. One more, and this just gives you a little history about Ancestor Steve Coakley.
From the south side, with a fire in his mind, books in his hands, truth on the line. He spoke in rooms where the silence was loud, pulled back the curtain, stood tall in the crowd. He said power moves quiet, behind closed doors, private conversations, unspoken laws, asked who decides and who benefits too, when the spotlight fades from me and you. He wasn't scared to question names or challenge hidden games. Steve pointed to the ties unseen and what they really mean. Steve Coakley, voice in the room, shining a light where secrets bloom. Calm and clear so we understand, truth in his words, mic in his hand. Steve Coakley making it plain, asking who profits from power and gain. Not to divide but to let us see, what's done in the dark affects you and me. He talked about circles, elite and tight, influence moving out of sight. Called it the black boule, networks of sway, question their role in shaping the day. Not rumors whispered just for the thrill, but lectures built on research and will. He urged the people, learn and read, know who's leading and who you feed. Education was his shield, information was the field. He said, don't just accept the show, dig deeper, learn, and grow. Steve Coakley, voice in the room, shining a light where secrets bloom. Calm and clear so we understand, truth in his words, mic in his hand. Steve Coakley making it plain, asking who profits from power and gain. Not to divide but to let us see, what's done in the dark affects you and me. Knowledge is power, he would say. Don't give your mind away. Ooh. Question the structure, follow the thread. Think for yourself instead. Steve Coakley, voice in the room, shining a light where secrets bloom. Calm and clear so we understand. Truth in his words, mic in his hand. Steve Coakley standing strong, teaching the people all along. Open the books, uncover the key. Truth is the path to liberty. Yeah, yeah. A mind awakened won't go back to sleep. The questions he raised still run deep.
All right. And again, that was a quick tribute to Ancestor Steve Coakley, whose born day was June the 17th. He was born in the year of 1952. And of course, as with Baba Kwame Ture, and I don't know if we still have Baba Bambozi with us, but Baba Kwame said that he believed that the government infected him with cancer. He often said that. And so with the situation with Ancestor Steve Coakley, there was also questions around his illness as well. So, we want people to be real clear that biological warfare is not something that you want to dismiss. That's for sure. Okay, so let us go on to the next topic. Before we do, let me just ask the question, is there any information or anything that anyone would like to share? We certainly have one thing that we want to share with you for Monday, but before I give you that information about the all day, all night marathon from Mumia Abu Jamal is coming up on Monday. Let me just see if there's anyone else that has any information that you would like to share with us tonight.
All right. Going to open the floor up. With that being said, for any updates, for any events, initiatives, programs that you all have going on that you would like to share on the network. All right. So I'll open the floor really quickly for that. Okay.
All right. Well, then let me ask the question before we go to, we're going to talk, of course, a little bit about Mother Khadija Farrakhan. And I know that for many she was kind of behind the scenes, but you best believe she was she was more than what most would know or would be able to see. She was graceful, of course, but very diplomatic. But let me tell you, she was a mover and a shaker. But before we give you the clip, Brother Lamum, I'm getting ready to send you the clip of Mother Khadija at the Million Woman. Did I already send that to you at the Million Woman March, Mother Khadija?
You might have sent that to my phone, but if you can send that to the email.
Okay. All right, we'll do. Okay, great. I want to share that with everyone because, again, it was, that was such an incredible day. And so we're going to show you the brief speech that she gave on that day. But before we do, I'm going to send this over to Brother Lamumba. Let me just ask about Tony Brown Journal. Is there anyone that is familiar with Tony Brown's Journal?
Well, I definitely am familiar with Tony Brown's Journal. That is certain. One of the first, very poignant and articulate uh, and professional journalists that I've seen, from way back in the day when I was a youth, as they say. All right. So yeah, one of the dynamic individuals in me and professional media and journalism that I saw being able to hold court and carry himself in that prestigious type of manner and deliver information that was pertinent and relevant to the Black community.
Absolutely. All right. Now you tell me there's no one else that remembers Tony Brown's journal?
Certainly I remember Tony Brown's journal. I mean, I think most recently I sent out a little thing about Angela Davis. He was interviewing Angela Davis. She was the first interview she gave, and once she got out of the bands of the FBI, etc. But yeah, he was a
Wow.
great journalist.
Absolutely. I mean, again, there was nothing on TV like that. And I think he was on for, I don't know how many seasons, but he was on for quite a while. You know, it just reminds me of the type of journalism that we used to have that we're not really seeing anymore. There was another person, and I'll think of his name in a few moments because he happened to be the brother of, oh goodness, what was his name? Max Robinson. Do you remember him, Brother Moses? Max Robinson?
Certainly, yes.
Yeah. I mean, again, and he made history actually, because I think he was like maybe the first that became an actual anchor on, a major, TV network doing the actual news, right? For one of the key channels or one of the key networks. And he was the brother of Randall Robinson, if I remember correctly. Did you know that, Brother Moses?
Yeah, I wasn't sure he was his brother or not, but I always connected them up together, but I wasn't sure what their relationship was.
Yeah, he was the brother. Yep. So again, this was the type of, and also they were close allies. He and Mumia were close allies. So we really had just a whole nother kind of thing going on years ago when it came to all areas of communications, all professions really. But again, something has happened. And Brother Mumba, you can check your email now. I sent the clip. We're going to see a clip in a few moments, family, with Mother Khadijah Farrakhan. This is her actually at the Million Woman March. But before we share that, again, I want to ask you all, what do you think has happened? We've had, again, you heard about Bambozi talk about Ella Baker, Saint Ella Baker, Saint Fannie Lou Hamer, and others. What has happened here? Now, I don't know if you heard him mention the name Max Stanford. He talked about, when he was talking about the development of the Black Panther parties, and said that there were like 4 at the same time that were being formed. But the one that ended up kind of really being the one that would grow and become more popularized and so forth was, of course, the one that came out of the West Coast with Huey P. Newton, Chairman Huey P. Newton, and Bobby Seale, right? But there were others. And that was I didn't know that about Max Stanford. That was news to me. I meant to ask him some more about that. But again, you've heard us talk about Max Stanford a few times. For those who do not know, his name, of course, now is Dr. Muhammad Ahmed. And you've also saw him, if you saw one of our videos a few weeks ago, and we play it periodically when we're doing certain things around the issue of reparations. But he was in one of the film presentations that we showed with Father Paul Washington. And so that was Max Stanford. And at the time, later in the years, he became the chairperson for RAM, Revolutionary Action Movement, and so forth and so on. And the other name that I meant to mention, or to give some clarity to, when Bambozi mentioned rap. I don't know if you heard him say, he said when rap was chairperson of SNCC. So I don't know if you all caught that, but he was talking about H. Rap Brown. And of course, that was Imam Jamil Al-Amin in later years. So again, we literally, with certain things and certain time periods, we can really look at the time periods of where people went through these schools, for lack of a better word, of the movement. And then you could literally see how they were growing. Anyway. Oh, okay. Baba, Brother Mumba has a
Before
clip
we go,
on
we'd like to
Tony
take
Brown.
a moment to mark the death of Tony Brown, TV journalist, educator, and civil rights advocate. His family announced his passing today.
He was perhaps best known as the host and executive producer of Tony Brown's Journal, recognized as a landmark long-running PBS public affairs program. Brown was also an author, speaker, and media entrepreneur. His family said he died peacefully last week at his home in Newport News, Virginia. Tony Brown was 93 years old.
Support journalism you trust.
Wow. All right. Yep. Thank you for that, Brother Mumba. I mean, just an incredible. I mean, he was just so cool. Yeah, he was so cool and sharp. Wonderful. All right. So that again, family, Tony Brown, an incredible journalist, communicator, just, all around media master. And again, in such a way that he brought the issues, the concerns of Black folks to television, to really have in-depth conversation that really provided just, incredible information. Okay. So we're going to look at this clip now, I think. That is of Mother Khadija Farrakhan. And again, I'm not sure of the actual transition. I'm going to check again. I know the official letter came out today. And so I think, though, the passing might have been yesterday, but if not, it was definitely today. And so far, there hasn't been any indication of, what might have been the cause. It might, it appears from now that it seems to have been natural causes. And, of course, the family is requesting prayers. Okay, we're ready for the clip. This is October 25th, 1997.
And all over the world, to our sisters in America and all over the world, this is a great opportunity to give you the greetings of Assalamu Alaikum, which means peace. In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful, that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. To the Million Women March Committee and to all the esteemed platform guests, I would like to thank you for your invitation to this wonderful occasion. I say these few words to you in the spirit of atonement and reconciliation that was inspired by the Million Man March and called by our leader and teacher of the Nation of Islam, my husband, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. On this day, we must all remember that yes, a nation can rise no higher than its woman. So teaches the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But she is only one part of the solution, a significant part, but not the whole. We are here today to focus on the woman but we must not and cannot lose sight on the fact that we must rise up a nation, a family that encompasses men, women, and children. We must strive to become whole, one nation under God, a true nation that represents freedom, justice, and equality for all. Thank you.
All right. All right, family. Yeah. All right. So again, we now have a new ancestor, and it is Mother Khadijah Muhammad. All right, so that kind of brings us to the four ancestors that we wanted to salute for tonight for this month of June. June is now leaving, and again, we want to remind everyone that Monday, there is a press conference. And Brother Moom, I don't know if you have the flyer that you can share, but at any rate, Monday is in fact the 29th. And of course, I mentioned that it is the actual born day of Baba Kwame Ture as well. But there's going to be a press conference here in Philadelphia at 12 noon. It probably is also going to be either on YouTube and or Facebook Live. I'll know for sure tomorrow. And of course, the press conference is going to focus on the continual fight to free Mumia Abu Jamal. It's going to also focus on the unconstitutional acts that have been committed. And on our end, we are also saying, of course, the human rights violations. Mumia should have been out. The research has shown over the past 3 years, and two judges actually have said that one, he should have had a new trial, and then another said that he should have actually been freed. And so why he's still being held, well, we know the reason for that, but again, the struggle does indeed continue. So on Monday, there will be a press conference at 12 noon. And from that press conference, there's going to be an all-day, all-night marathon at City Hall in front of or around what is known as the Cato statue. And so folks are going to be in that location for 24 hours. Again, it's a protest. It is an action. And folks are invited to come out to support, to share any poetry or any kind of music or artistry, poetry, artistry, any type, spoken word, as well as, of course, just share information, anything that a group or organization may be doing, anything that you want to make the community aware of that's going on, all of those types of things. We're saying people will have the capability to get on the mic for 24 hours. There's going to be music. There's going to be some food available, and just some good vibes, good energy. It's summertime, so folks can come out. We'll be there for 24 hours. So we'll give you more information about it tomorrow. Again, I'm going to turn it over to Brother Lumumba and let him tell us about what's going on tomorrow for Ubuntu.
All right. Most definitely. So again, tomorrow, family, of course, we have our Sunday meeting for the Ubuntu Justice Jubilee Committee. All right, that's going to be Sunday at 7 p.m. That's going to be via Facebook Live as well as Zoom. All right, you can get more information and tap based on that. You can email nationalmwm@aol.com. That's nationalmwm@aol.com. You can also email powerman2282@gmail.com. That's powerman2282@gmail.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. That's 267-636 3802. All right. Oh, we do got Baba Bambozi still with us. Right, I just brought it back up stage. Okay.
Bro,
Um. Oh yes, sir.
yeah, before you go, can I make two short interventions?
Oh yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
I'm glad that Sister Empress mentioned Mother Kadia. I would also like to mention the fact that Madame Touré, Madame Andrea Touré, the wife of Sekou Touré, was who was in her late 90s, was rushed to a hospital in Morocco from Guinea this week
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
emergency medical conditions, and we haven't heard any bad news yet. And so we're still keeping our finger crossed for her. And
Mhm.
also, just by the fact of what folks call 6 degrees of separation, we had the pleasure of having an office right downstairs in Chicago that we rented a storefront from Lou Palmer, who was a critical African journalist in Chicago.
Yes.
And right upstairs from us, Brother Steve Copley had an office. And also, in terms of Tony Brown Journal, the Party Communications Center in D.C., our main number one secretary was also the secretary of Tony Brown. So we have these kind of
Wow.
weird 6 degrees of separation connection.
Right? Wow. Well, Baba Bambozi, it for me, I, I'm saying that we're on the horizon of what I call the Ma'atic epoch. A
Uh-huh.
time for justice and truth and reciprocity and so forth. And with that, things are coming together. The connections are coming together, past and present. So, so I find it so interesting that the people that we've talked about tonight, how you just came in and just connected every one of them in some kind of way, from past as well as present. Wow. That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. You know, when I initially met Mumia, I was a student at Drexel University, and Mumia used to come and do his independent taping at our campus, and that's when I met him. And the name of the we had like a black group there on campus, and the thing that we did on radio was called the Black Experience in Music. And so I think, family, what we have experienced tonight, what we have been able to show and kind of, exchange with one another is what we call that Black experience, not just in music, but in our work. And so, so we want to kind of leave you with that thought for tonight. That what we're talking about is not a fad. It's not a moment. It's not just a feel good thing, or just something that you get excited about periodically or whatever it is. It's a lot of work. Often it is frustrating. Often it is disappointing, but nevertheless, it is what it is. And some of us are committed to it to the end. So, again, that's a part of what we call that Black experience. So I want to thank everyone again for tuning in with us tonight. I'm going to go to you all for any closing comments before we close out for tonight.
All right, all right. With that being said, I want to open up the floor for anyone with us on stage, on StreamYard in the yard. Any closing questions or comments before we get ready to wrap up for this evening?
I just like to say that politics determines economics, always has and always will. And we've got to get control of the government. That's the goal. Thank you.
All right, all right. Thank you for that addition, Baba Moses. All right. All right, family. Just a quick reminder once again, the Ubuntu Justice Jubilee committee meetings just every Sunday. So that's tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Zoom, as well as Facebook Live. So we're building towards fighting, continuing to fight to make sure that we have Black liberation, right? So fight for Black human rights and reparatory justice. And we're utilizing the arts, music, and culture in order to disseminate the information to the masses of our people. All right. So we're going to be pushing this year for August the 23rd for an artist assembly, I should say an artivist assembly. And so while we're continuing to salute and celebrate Black Music Month, we specifically wanted to highlight those in Black music that were what we call artists. Okay, so beyond what they were able to accomplish and what they did on stage and as entertainers, more importantly and most impactfully, we were highlighting their contributions as it pertains to the activism, right, and their understanding of the importance of infusing those different messages within the music, all right, and making sure that they were active in the fight for Black freedom and liberation and utilizing their platforms in order to do so. All right. So just you can join us again, and I'll drop the information at the end. But yeah, join us once again on Sunday at 7 for those coordinating meetings, okay, organizing and coordinating meetings. Also on Monday, we have our second edition with Mama Inez Barron, okay, with Black Poli Sci 101. This is class number 4, okay, and that's going to be at 6:30 on Monday. That's going to be on this channel as well. So that's going to be on StreamYard, YouTube, Facebook Live as well. Okay. Again, that's Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Black Poli Sci 101, class number 4 with Sister Inez Barron. Okay. And the theme for that is education for Black liberation. All right. So join us for those sessions on Sunday and Monday. And of course, Tuesday, we have our regular Ethereal Journey podcast at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you already know what time it is for that, all right, with the Ethereal Journey. All right, family. So let me bring it back over to Sister Empress. Matter of fact, let me bring it back over to Baba Shango for his final thoughts and closing remarks.
Thank you, brother. And thanks to our Sister Empress. Keep up the good work. We need this. And, some people say, well, why don't you retire? But we ain't free. And if you ain't free, you can't retire. Unfortunately, I wish I could.
Well, I've heard that.
Thank you again.
Yes, indeed. Yes, Bob. I heard the struggle is indeed from the cradle to the grave, just like learning.
That's true.
Much appreciated, and thanks for joining us once again and all of your wisdom and insight, Baba Bombosi Shango.
Thank you.
All right. With that being said, let me bring it back over to Sister Empress for final thoughts, closing remarks for this evening.
All right. Well, again, family, we want to thank everyone for joining us. As you can tell, there's always a lot of work ahead of us, and it's all right because we're here to do that. Fortunately, I'm not sure what happened with Brother Akbar. He was supposed to be checking in to give us a report from Mississippi, but hopefully we'll get him next week. And hopefully we'll be able to do some live broadcasting on Monday when we're doing the Mumia Abu Jamal all day, all night marathon. I'm really trying to get a tent so that I can kind of sleep out at the location for that evening, so hopefully that'll take place. But either way, I'm going to be there at some point, and I'll definitely be at the press conference. So we're going to more than likely be able to do at least an hour or two or something later that evening while we're there at the location. So we'll keep you posted. So again, we want to thank everyone. And I turn it back over to Brother Lamumba.
All right. Excellent, excellent. Absolutely. All right, family. So with that being said, for more information on any of these programs and initiatives, again, you can email nationalmwm@aol.com. That's nationalmwm@aol.com. You can also email powerman2282@gmail.com. That's powerman2282@gmail.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. That number again is 267-636-3802. With that being said, we're going to close out the session for this evening. Thank you for joining us for this edition of New Day Resurrection and Liberation. I'll give thanks to our special guest and presenter, Baba Bambosi Shango.
Thank you, brother.
With that being said, I want to give thanks, family, first and foremost to the Most High Creator Creatress. Give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, prosperity, protection, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say, let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, of course, family, I want to say, Pomoja Tutashinda, which means together we will win. All right. Peace, power, and prosperity. Until next time, family.